The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Pennsylvania natives Tristan Warner and Rob Waltko. PA Power Wrestling. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Pennsylvania wrestling fans, welcome back again for the PA Power College Wrestling Podcast. I'm your co-host, Tristan Warner, joined as always by Rob Waltko. Special guest here tonight, my teammate for 4 years at Old Dominion, a California state champ, Super 32 champ in high school, and then made his way to ODU where he was a two-time All-American for Steve Martin. So we're lucky to bring on Chris Mecate all the way out from California. Chris, thanks for joining us.
It's awesome. I love being on the PA Power Podcast, staying in tune with all my East Coast wrestling fans and everything and checking in. It's an honor.
Yeah, and before we get started, it's probably fair that I mention, we recorded this about a week ago, and I somehow lost the file. So we're actually re-recording this, and I think, Rob, that means it's just a testament to how much Chris Mecate loves Pennsylvania and loves Pennsylvania wrestling.
I'll gladly do a take 2 of a podcast to stay in tune with the rumblings on the East Coast. Gladly.
To say he was begging to get back on is an understatement.
Yeah.
For
the
sure.
PA vibes were
weather right now.
The computer.
I could feel it, the mountains and the cold and the sheets. I needed to be back on.
So we're bringing some Pennsylvania sunshine your way here through the computer, through the waves. But Chris, before we get started talking about the main meat of our discussion here, obviously Old Dominion's program was announced that it was being discontinued. What was that now? A little over a week ago. Before we get into that discussion, inform the fans a little bit from the East Coast here from PA about, how you got started in wrestling all the way out in California, and then how you eventually met Steve as a kid who later recruited you to come to Old Dominion.
Yeah, so pretty much I got started wrestling in first grade. It was just an act of randomness where my dad was reading a newspaper article from the local Orange County Register on the sports section where they highlighted like local kids doing sports, like standout youth sports section. And one of the kids was a standout wrestler. And so my dad showed it to me. I remember sitting on the couch reading it with him. And I was like, wrestling? I want to try out wrestling. And my dad had no clue about any type of wrestling. It wasn't really super big or dominant in that area. So he was like, what club is this kid at? And then so we ended up going to the same exact club that the kid in the newspaper was at the week later. And then, it was history from there. So that was my first club I joined. It was Team SoCal. And then that summer, my first wrestling camp I went to was the Granby School of Wrestling camp, which is where I met Coach Martin, who ended up being my 13 years later, ended up being my college coach. So, first grade, met him that summer, I guess summer going into my second grade year. And then I meet Steve Martin, and then fast forward 12 years, and then he's my college coach.
What was your first impression of Steve as a little kid? I mean, that's got to be kind of scary, I would think.
Yeah, I just remember he wore wore a lot of gray, would sweat a lot, would bark a lot, and then after the sessions would tape ice up his hips. So as a kid, that's what I remember because you don't really understand the social cues and everything. But it was funny because my mom went to drop me off first day of camp, and then she goes to the table and asks, "Is there like an emergency number I could call in case something happens or whatever?" And then Steve looked up from the desk, and my mommy goes, "Yeah, 911," and starts laughing with the people, other counselors, and then so my mom decided to stay that session and call off from work, and then watch me during the rest of the day.
Chris, did you continue a relationship with him after that, or was it just like that's a complete chance that the first club the first camp you went to was with him, and then you ended up going to ODU?
No, we'd stay in contact because back then the Granby guys would come out every summer and like 4 California spots. So it would be anytime any of the Granby camps were ever in California or even Arizona or Utah or whatever, anywhere within like, to be honest, 12 hours of driving range, we were there like every time. And then my dad was a huge fan of, just because he was new to wrestling. And what the Granby school did was they laid out a system, like this move goes to this move, which goes to this move. boom, this move doesn't work, then you hit this move. And so it's
Right.
easy for someone learning wrestling to understand, for him and me. So we were fans in that sense, and we felt like we got our money's worth because they would drill us hard. As Warner knows, yeah, big drilling coach. So we would drill hard. So my dad saw it as a great return on investment. He was willing to take me wherever to get those lessons in. And then on top of that, one of my traveling buddies who would also go with me to all those camps was Alex Cisneros, who is a 3-time state champ from California, 4-time finalist, great wrestler in his own right. And then so we started going to every camp, and it was a good little training session for us because his dad would bring us the session an hour early, and we would drill and go live and then do the session. And then at lunch, we'd have a quick 15, 20-minute lunch, have to get back to session and get another drill. So it was good because we got a good camp in, and then good because then me and Cisneros would link up and then get good workouts in. So there was a lot of benefits from going to that. But anytime they touched down, the Martins or the Granby School touchdown on the West Coast, I was there from about first grade to throughout high school. So I saw him about a few times every year.
What's that Cisneros kid doing these days?
I haven't spoke to him in a while. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure last time I saw him, I came back. It was after I graduated, and I went up to go watch Doc B. Was it Doc B? I went up to go watch Doc B because I was in town, and it was a few-hour drive. Went up to watch, and I saw him there. And I think he's back in Selma. I want to say I don't know for sure. So, but I think he was back in Selma helping out coaching, and then he was working, I think, at a auto dealership. I'm not sure exactly what his role was or any of that, but I think that was like 2 years ago, last time I checked in with him. Haven't spoken to him in a while, but that was what he was doing last time me and him talked.
Cool.
Yeah.
Chris, so take us a little bit through the rest of your youth into high school career. Then you obviously, like I previously mentioned, you won Super 32. You won states as a senior. I think you were already committed to ODU at that point. So talk a little bit about how you became successful in high school before deciding to come to Old Dominion.
Yeah, so went into high school. I was pretty. I would say I was pretty good, but like I told you guys last time, I never got the national recognition. But it's because I didn't really earn it. So I would do real well in California against California guys, but I would always have trouble with kind of more the Midwest kids. I didn't really see a ton of PA kids, but it was more like that Midwest barnyard brawl style that kind of gave me fits. So I was always pretty good in California though. But yeah, placed the state as a freshman in California, which, like I said last time, I still need the stat needs to get checked, but I think there was only 5 freshmen that year to place at the California State Tournament. It was me, Nick Pena, who ended up being a 2-timer, and Russell Cornell, Morgan McIntosh, and who else was it? One other guy. There might have been 1 or 2 other guys who ended up wrestling somewhere in college. So we were kind of a tough little freshman class of kids before, and this was before freshmen started winning state titles. It was like, oh wow, freshmen place at state before this kind of wave of freshmen coming in ready to go. And I wasn't held back either. Other guys weren't held back. We were 15 years old or whatever the normal freshman age was. But yeah, so I placed there. Sophomore year, I had knee surgery. Didn't compete. At the end of the year, I had a pretty good season leading up to that, but didn't compete at the end of the year. Then going into my junior year, I was hurting because I didn't get to showcase my skills at the state tournament, and I beat the guy who ended up getting second, lost to Delgado in the finals. So in my head, I'm thinking like me and Delgado could have wrestled. It could have been a match I could have won in the state tournament. And so I was training real hard all summer going into Super 32. And so when I went to Super 32, where most guys, it's their preseason tournament, they train hard, but they're not like fully committed. I was fully committed. So I went to Super 32, and then that was at 2009. 2009. Yep. Same year you were there. So yeah, 2009. And if you check the bracket, it was like, man, like looking back, star-studded bracket, All-Americans. Yeah, multiple-time All-Americans, multiple-time state champions. So I got first round, I think I had Joey Ward, All-American from UNC. Second round, I think I had Connor Utsi, 2-time All-American from Michigan. And then the list goes on. Rossi Bruno in the semis, who's an All-American. And then I beat Mike Roan in the finals from Pennsylvania, who he upset Bruschetta on the other side of the bracket, Nick Bruschetta from Graham. So, yeah, winning that tournament at that time really put me on the map. That's when all the college coaches really started calling. I had some coaches talking to me, but that one kind of the phone call started really coming after that. And then so when Steve was recruiting me, it didn't feel like I was having a kind of sales pitch thrown at me because he didn't have to, because I knew him. So it wasn't like this guy who I've never met, who I just know is a coach. It's just like throwing a sales pitch at me, trying to get me to commit and like sell me on all the school stuff, where Steve could kind of talk to me more in a real conversational way, which kind of put me at ease, because then we could be honest with each other. So then, yeah, going to that year, get 5th at the state tournament, which I was disappointed in. I was super disappointed. I wanted to win it. I was capable of winning it. I lost in the semis to the guy who won it in overtime. But looking back at that bracket, people still bring it up to this day, how the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place in that state tournament bracket was, 3rd place was Isaiah Martinez, who I beat in the quarters. He came back for 3rd. So his 3rd place was Isaiah, 4th place was Jesse Delgado, and then 5th place was me. So people still bring that up to this day, how 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the state tournament, normally, maybe one out of those guys wrestle Division I, maybe 3rd, 4th, and 5th in most states. Maybe with the exception being PA. But, yeah.
It sounds like a Pennsylvania bracket, not a California.
Yeah, exactly. It is, for sure. And then 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I mean, Isaiah was a 2-time champ, 4-time finalist. Jesse was a 2-time champ, 3 times.
A lot of Illini titles in that bracket, too.
A lot of Illini titles, 4 Illini titles in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then I was a 2-time All-American. So tough little 3rd, 4th, and 5th, almost just reminiscent of a good old Pennsylvania bracket. But
Chris, who won that weight?
Chris Martinez from Clovis West, who I lost to in the semis.
Where did he end up?
San Francisco State, which is a D2 school in California. And then who knows? I don't know. I wasn't asking those questions at the time. I was just mad I lost.
Crazy,
then,
man. Seriously.
Yeah, so he won it. And then I didn't really follow through. I was doing my thing on the East Coast. And then and then you know how it is. Once you get to college, like, you really don't talk about high school. It's just kind of looked down upon to reminisce on high school while you're in college.
Yeah.
And after that, I got recruited by Steve Hard, and I went to ODU, took my trip. And I was sold on the home environment of it. And then one thing Steve told me in the office, which my parents might have not picked up, or no one else except me picked up, but in something he said, he goes, when your son, he's like, our goal is to get your son a national title and get a degree. And then he said it kind of offhand. He goes, and when your son graduates here, he'll be a man. And the way he said it with conviction, which in me, I was like, yeah, because you're in that stage. I'm 17, 18. You really don't know where life's going to take you. People go a bunch of different routes. But I was like, that's one thing I do want to be sure of, that when I'm done with college, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be able to take care of myself, handle what I want to handle. And I don't think I've ever even told Steve that, but that's something he said where I was like, that's it. He sold me on, when I'm done, I don't want to be, even if I graduate and get a degree or accomplish my wrestling goals, if I'm out there and I'm still immature, I'm still a boy, then who cares? Because it's going to go down the drain. But he told me I was going to be a man if I stuck through the whole 5 years. And then I could say I matured a ton in those 5 years. I matured a ton.
That's funny how he has different words, because he told me when I was done in 5 years I was going to be a robot. So he said you're going to feel no emotion. You're going to be a robot.
Maybe
I came in for I think my first ever workout. I was wrestling with Jesse Strawn, who was a blood rounder, who was a 197 pounder in college and probably weighed 220.
Kansas kid?
I think I came in weighing a pudgy 170. And
that was in your chubby days, when you were chubby.
Yeah, he had me going a half hour live with a dude 50 pounds more than me. So I was a little emotional, I guess, at the end. And he told me, Warner, when you're done, you're going to be a robot. You're going to show no emotion. So
he was right. I mean, he kind of hit that one. You're pretty.
I come out a robot. You came out a man. What do you know?
I could say by your senior year, you were pretty cold-blooded. You were pretty methodical and just went down the line. I could vouch for that.
Cold-hearted. Yeah.
That's right. I'm a fan. I was a fan.
Chris, let's jump into your college career. Obviously, you came to ODU. Well, first, before we get into the wrestling part, what was it like coming from the West Coast to PA? I mean, obviously, there's probably more sunshine here in Pennsylvania. And other than that, not a huge difference. I mean, you actually even wrestled like a PA kid. Like, you know, a lot of PA kids, you know, the rumor across the whole country is that they're great on top, not as good on their feet. But, I mean, you didn't shoot a whole lot on your feet, but you were nasty with legs. So, I mean, you easily could have fit in as a PA kid. You got that complexion like you've been out in that PA sunshine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do a lot of winning, which I would like to be associated with. That's a good reputation. But, yeah, that's one of the things. Even when I was in California, I always got told I had a different style. And it was one of those things, to be honest. In high school, I used to shoot a lot. And I think that if I'm being 100% honest, I even shot a lot my freshman year until I got in the room and I realized I couldn't hand fight. And then I was like, it became an obsession of mine. Like, and I thought in high school, I thought I could hand fight because in California, it's kind of a lot in the open. So I would give a good club and an underhook and guys would kind of concede to me. And I'd be like, oh, I know how to hand fight until I got to that room. And then one of the guys on the team who was the captain at the time really showed me that there's levels to this. So it's actually kind of one of those things where even in high school, I used to shoot quite off. I would low singles, all that kind of stuff. And then once I got to college, I was like, man, screw shooting. If I can't even lift my head at the end of 6 minutes. So I kind of became like the hand fighter. But I've always been good on top since, say, maybe like fifth, sixth grade. I don't even know who it was. It might have been. There was a bunch of – because I used to go to camps all the time. That was my thing. My dad over summer sent me to camps everywhere. So I got a good read of like a lot of different styles of wrestling. I wasn't in the same club with the same coach preaching the same style. I mean, I saw Jansen. I saw Mitch. Was it Mitch Clark? Is he the guy?
Yeah, chose top in the NCAA finals versus Curtis Jones.
Boom. Yeah, Mitch Clark. I remember Mitch Clark, Jansen. I mean, there's so many guys I can't really think of right now, but there's a lot of top stuff. So, and I remember being told at that middle school, high school age, like, oh, but they said it kind of in a negative way, like, oh, Mecate has more of an East Coast style, likes to ride people, kind of like. What is that about?
That's a bad thing.
Let's just choose. Yeah, like it's a bad thing until, thank God, I remember I had a couple coaches who I really respect and like and still talk to this day, and they're kind of like, hey, man, if you're going to leg ride, you better get good at that because in college, only guys that leg ride are guys who are really good at leg riding. You can't be kind of good because guys are going to get out. And I remember, and then they were kind of hinting at like, hey, do something else. But I was kind of like, nah, I don't know. Once I get my legs around people, I do all right. So thank God I stuck to my guns and – yeah, because those legs helped me a lot in college. Took me to a couple podium visits at nationals just because I could ride people. So yeah, I did have that East Coast style of being good on top. I guess you could say. Some people would say.
So once you got to ODU, what would you say really made the difference? Especially probably Steve, but obviously you had some other good coaches and workout partners here that took you from, you were top 20 guy your whole career, but took you from your first year to qualifying for NCAAs. I think you went 1 and 2 both times, and then junior and senior year. Junior year you're in the semis. Senior year, fifth and sixth. So go ahead and talk about what was the biggest thing for your development.
Development. I was, like I said, the coaches. One thing that I loved about ODU is that it's a mid-major school, so it's not kind of this environment where it's like, hey. Like, they're just going to throw you to the wolves and then cream rises to the top and bam, that's the guy we go with. Steve, I could say around all the college coaches I've been around, is the most one who's so into development of maybe because he has a high school background where he coached high school first, but he is actually into the phase of development. I mean, and you know this, he has stacks this thick above his office with all your technique, neutral, top, bottom. And it'd be a thing where Steve really helped me from all I had was like a pretty much club CP shot, an underhook throw by, to him actually getting me a brand shot. I used to start snapping people down, scoring go behinds. I mean, it was Steve added so many tools to my repertoire where if I went to I know for a fact if I would have went to some other schools, it kind of would have been like a smack on the ass and like, all right, bud, figure it out. Like, which is fine. I mean, that works better for some people. And it might have worked for me too. I don't know. But I just know coming out of it how much Steve invested in me. And then Hutter, all the coaches those are kind of my main guys when I was there. But I mean, all the coaches helped me out in some fashion or another. But yeah, they were super into development, which I loved. And I do now as a coach. I really try to not make it just like, all right, we're just going to get tough, which you need those days too, where it's kind of like, hey, time on the clock, try to break your partner. But you also need days where you fix those little techniques that you might be having problems with. So Steve did that better than anybody I've really ever been around in my wrestling career. He was just his attention to detail. And I mean, like I'm saying, you can vouch for this, Warner, but like his attention to detail, if it's not done perfect, it doesn't count. And it better be done perfect, and you better be able to do it perfect until he's satisfied that it's done perfect. So that means 50 reps after practice when you're dead tired and you want to get out of there and you need to go lay down. That means you're going to keep going until he feels satisfied, which can be 10 minutes or 90 minutes. You know that. So, yeah, they did a great job developing me. But then another thing I could really vouch for is how much they helped my mental game, which was the biggest difference. Because if I was to be honest, my freshman, sophomore year, physically, just speaking purely physically, I was in way better shape and I was stronger at the weight at 41. Because my junior, senior year, the weight cut really started to get to me. I mean, I was growing and still making that 41 cut, which was brutal for me to make year round. And then I had a couple injuries. I injured my shoulder and my ankle pretty bad, so I couldn't really use my left arm as much as I wanted to. And then my right ankle was messed up, so I had to kind of wrap that thing up. So it was a mental change where I was in a complete state of zen and calm and focus. Those junior, senior national tournaments where nothing else, like I was a horse with blinders on. I didn't look. I told people they thought I was joking or just kind of making it up, but I didn't look at the brackets my junior, senior year. I had no idea who I had. I didn't want to know. I was like, it doesn't matter. Where those freshman, sophomore years, I got caught up in like, if I beat this guy and this guy loses to this guy, then in the quarters I'll have this guy. But meanwhile, I got beat by this guy because one of the matches I beat Durso earlier in the year, or maybe the year before, but I beat Durso, and then so they kind
name
of
drop.
Yeah, lucky.
Shout out Franklin and Marshall. But so I beat Durso earlier in the year, and then I remember we were going over the brackets, and then someone was like, all right, so you're gonna get past him, and then you got this guy, and then it might have been Stieber. And then so we're like game planning for Hunter Stieber, and then I lose to Durso. And because I just kind of thought my sophomore year, I was the 5 seed, and then I had a pretty good year for the most part. I beat some guys that I avenged some losses, so I thought I was on a roll, and I was. And then I kind of thought I'd try hard and I'd slide into 5th, and if I really am on, I could get 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or maybe make it to the finals. And then not even close. Like, you got to fight for every second on that mat against, if it's 33 or if it's Logan Stieber, you got to be ready to fight on every inch of that mat. And you guys know that. Like, no one's giving you anything at the national tournament. You really got to fight for it. And that was before he was seeded 1 to 33. I think it was 1 to 12 or 1 to 16. I'm not sure. You probably know better than I do, but they didn't seed 1 to 33. So you could be seeded and then catch a guy who's not much seeded far behind you early in the tournament.
It could be 5 versus 13 round.
Exactly. So
that's a round match, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not kind of like all the way mapped out 1 to 33 to where these guys, it's kind of like it's a dice roll a little bit. So yeah, those junior, senior years, I mean, Steve really kind of sent me down long meetings about my confidence and stuff, and really had me believing I should beat the guys. Not saying I shouldn't have beat the guys that I was beating, but I've always, just maybe the way I'm programmed or the way I've competed since I was a kid, the really, really good guys, like the number one guys in the country or number 1, 2 guys in the country, just because maybe I was never there when I was younger, I always gave them a little too much respect. And I noticed that. And when I came to ODU and I'd have a close match with the top 5 or top 6 guy in the country, and I kind of thought I expected to come off the mat and then Steve smacked me on the butt like, hey, good job, bud. You'll get him next time. But he was furious. He was like, how the hell did you finish that go? But like, you're supposed to beat that guy. And I'm thinking like, oh, damn. Like, I belong with these guys. Like, my coach is getting genuinely upset that I didn't really beat this number 3 guy, or I don't want to name drop again, but another PA name drop. But Evan Henderson was one of the guys. He had my number. He beat me freshman year at nationals. And then I think the first 2 competitions, the next year, sophomore year, he beat me. But every time they were closer and closer. And if you would have maybe if I had a different coach or someone, not to really put that in my brain, I might have been thinking like, all right, man, well, he's Evan Henderson. He was number 1 in the country in high school, 2-time All-American. Like, I'm right there. I just can't beat him. But Steve was like, damn it, Mecate, you got to beat Evan Henderson. Like, you got to get off bottom or whatever it was. And then I ended up beating him at beat him at Scuffle. And I kind of took it to him and kind of broke him a little bit in the 3rd, where I took him down and then flattened him out with legs or whatever. But yeah, and then I was like, okay, this crazy guy is right. And then I ended up beating someone I beat Dardanes after that. And then the year before, it might have been his brother. I forget which one it was. I should know this, but it was one of the Dardanes before the same tournament at Scuffle. The other Dardanes kind of stuck it to me. He didn't major me, but it was like beat me by 6, maybe 7. I'm not sure, but it was close. And I remember thinking like, man. And then that next match, I beat Dardanes, and then Steve was like fired up, but he was like, you should be beating these guys. You're better than these guys. And it kind of made me think like, okay, it's okay to have that confidence because maybe I used to just think of it as like, oh, you can't get overconfident, never get overconfident. But it's like, no, you need to be confident though. If you have any doubt that you're not going to be beating these guys, it's that last little scramble or that last little attempt at a shot. You might hit the leg, but if you genuinely believe that you're going to beat this guy, it's like you lock in your hands or you hit the leg and you kind of think, well, this guy's better than me. And then you go front headlock defense, kind of, or satisfied with losing by one. Like really deep subconscious stuff that you guys know at a high level. I mean, at a lower level, you could be more talented and beat a lot of guys that are just not as good as you. But at that high level, it's like little things like that. And those junior, senior years, long story short, was that I really kind of had that edge in my head. Even though physically my shoulder was messed up, my ankle was messed up, I was sucked out. I really didn't feel that good, but I was just better up here. And that put me on the podium. For those first 2 years, physically I felt great, but I didn't have it up here. So, yeah, that was kind of how my college career went for the most part.
Yeah, I'd say that has to be one of Steve's most overlooked qualities. I mean, he's got newspaper clippings all over his Old Dominion office about being able to brainwash in a good way student athletes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, everybody knows how much of a technician he is and how intense he is, but he really does have a way of penetrating through the mind, like you said, and really making you believe that you're better than either you are or that you were. But
100%.
Yeah, let's jump forward to the more somber note here, the mean part of our discussion. Where were you? How did you get the news last week? And were you in complete shock? What was your initial reaction when you found out Old Dominion's program was being discontinued?
Well, I was actually driving. I was en route I had a private lesson with a kid that day. So I'm driving and I'm 2 minutes away from the kid and I get a text from one of the old ODU coaches. And he texted me, "Did you hear the program got dropped?" And I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't know what program. I really didn't know what he was talking about. And I said, "Which program?" And then he texted me, "ODU." And I said, "No way." He goes, "No, dead serious." And I'm kind of like looking at it. I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "No way." And it was a great day out. I was feeling good driving to do this private with this kid. And I'm like, as I'm pulling into this kid's driveway, I'm like my heart sunk. I'm like, "What? ODU dropped the program?" And I'm thinking something crazy had to happen. Like ODU shut down or something. I'm like, "No way." And then I had to I put my phone on airplane mode, because I started to do this private with this kid, and I didn't want to be getting texts or whatever or thinking about that. Mm-hmm. And as we're doing this private, about an hour in, the dads that were there were like, "Hey, Mecate, did you just see ODU dropped their program?" Because I guess Flo – I don't know if Flo posted it first or someone posted it first. But
I think Flo and Intermat both posted it within
Yeah, so Flo and Intermat – it might have been the same article. Yeah, Flo and Intermat posted that ODU dropped their program, and I was like, no way. And I tried doing my best, being the best coach, staying completely focused on these kids, but I got a little depressed halfway through the private, and my energy just zapped, because I was just thinking like, what? Like, after all the years of that program, and then how just historical the Martin family is in Virginia. I mean, the dad's the godfather of Virginia wrestling, Hall of Famer. It's what Steve did with that program, consistently one of the best, if not the best, male program at ODU year in and year out since I've been there, since Steve's been there. And then for just out of nowhere for them to drop it and then kind of use the coronavirus as kind of like a mask to really hide the deeper internal issues, and then the decision they used to cut it, it just hurt. It hurt. It felt like a heartbreak. It didn't feel good. I couldn't believe it. It was like a mini depression hit me. And then I started getting texts and calls from everyone, like asking me if is it true or if I had details on it. And then, so that whole week, man, was tough. But you know what I could say? The positive silver lining was I've had people that I haven't spoke to in a long, long time reach out about how they can help the program, anything they could do, donations that can be made, and then asking me just any way that they could fight the program getting dropped. And so it was like I was flooded with texts or DMs or whatever, people like trying to support ODU's wrestling program that really don't have anything. I mean, I'm talking people that have nothing in common with ODU's wrestling program except knowing me and knowing how that affected me, and then wanting to help just because they've seen how much it impacted my life or just secondhand stuff. So that just shows you, man, ODU's wrestling program and the people that it's put out into society and then all that kind of stuff, it reaches farther than just the immediate wrestling circle. It goes way, way past that, especially in the Hampton Roads area.
Yeah, you nailed it though about the coronavirus. The more that this goes on, like, what a crock! Like, what just a cop out piece of crap excuse.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Pisses me off. The more like I forgot about the whole excuse until you brought it up again. Like,
It wasn't. It's just not good optics because people. I mean, when you drop a program that's been there for 68 years or 67 years out of nowhere, and then the coronavirus thing is like used as an excuse, people are going to ask questions, and people started asking questions and digging deep, and then following the money trail of where stuff is spent and expenses, and then answers started coming. Once you follow the money, you get your answers. So that kind of upset a lot of people, especially just the way it's just bad optics using this kind of pandemic as one of the reasons when really you had someone consultant there that's been there for 6 months and wrestling was on the chopping block without any of the wrestling alumni or donors knowing. It just doesn't feel good just because it's part of the legacy that you have. And we, like as wrestlers, we don't have the elite, we don't have the NFL, MLB, NBA to go look forward after. We're going to make our millions, and that's going to be where we get all the shine. It's like, this is our legacy that when I'm an old man, I want to take my kids and my grandkids and show them a picture of their dad when he was 22 on the wall, just to tell them, just so they know their dad could actually be able to scrap. It's not just me telling war stories, making it up. But yeah, man, it hurts. But I'm not going to quit fighting it. I don't care if it takes 10 years, takes 15, 20 years. I'm going to keep fighting and do anything in my power to make sure ODU's wrestling program gets reinstated. And I was there at Fresno when they dropped Fresno State's program. I was in Fresno, and they had a big rally at the president of the university's house, and I was there with Alex Cisneros when they dropped the program. And then, 10 or 11 years later, they brought back the program, and they're a top 20 team just like that. So, not saying I want it to take 10 years, but I'm saying with the right pressure and the right people and the right amount of money, it can come back, and it can be a thriving program. So I'm not going to lose hope. I'm not going to sell out. I don't care what it is. I'm going to keep fighting this until I'm an old, decayed man that, they bring back ODU's wrestling program.
Chris, I think that's a good point, though, that like this might not flip overnight. Like the chance of them having a program next year is probably pretty small, right?
Yeah.
I just think that in 5 to 10 years it could be back. So it's important for people to pay attention to the leadership, keep putting the pressure on them, but in the right way, like threatening to kill the president or the AD probably isn't the right move, or with nasty emails, but,
I agree. You got to play it smart. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, have you heard anything about what's next or what we can do to
I'm in talks with – I'm been talking with some of the alumni, some of the certain alumni that have kind of really stepped up with the petitions and all these kind of things and how to fundraise. And so as of right now, the petition's still live. You still sign the petition that we have. It's on the change.org website, Save ODU Wrestling, if you want to sign the petition. And then they're working on a donation package right now. That's the last thing I've heard. But they're in talks with prominent business leaders in the Hampton Roads area that have some sort of ODU wrestling connection about donations that can be made or certain negotiation packages they could kind of put together to help reinstate ODU's wrestling program. But at the end of the day, like you said, even if it's not back next year, it's something with the right type of pressure and the right type of if you make the ODU athletic program feel it and the president feel it in the right way, which is at the end of the day, it's the dollar bill. You vote with your dollar. So wherever you put your money, that's what people say, oh, we need more of this or we need less of this. It's with the dollar bill. So supporting any type of wrestling, if you have to buy the Flow subscription, but you're a wrestling fan, you buy it whether you like the guys or not. You support wrestling, you go to live matches, live duels, tournaments, support it just so people could see dollar bills are being spent on wrestling. Maybe we need to keep this instead of just kind of be the first program that gets dropped every time there's a decision that needs to be made. And then the thing is, we are in a hard spot right now with the economy and all this virus pandemic stuff. It's hard people to put their dollar bill when they're thinking, man, I lost my job. So, that's completely understood. But once everything kind of gets back to the normal sway of things, just making sure if there's a chance, go support, even if supporting your local high school wrestling program, you never know where that dollar's going to go. It might help support a kid who might do some pretty big things one day, and he remembers those days in the high school wrestling room. You hear stories about that all the time with guys, either in business or even guys who play in the NFL. They talk about wrestling in high school. Like, dude, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Just those kind of things. The kind of mentality it instills in you, just to be able to go on and do good things later in life, just staying focused and committed to a goal, staying to the process, long-term gratification instead of instant gratification. All those things apply. So, supporting wrestling in any way you can is the best thing we can do as of right now. But something will be out there on social media soon on ways to really help save ODU's wrestling program.
Chris, give us a little update. So after your career was over, you coached at ODU for a few years. You actually made a really big impact. You had guys like Larry Early reach the All-American podium. That was large in part to your coaching. And then you moved back to California, and now you're a professional fighter. So give these PA wrestling fans out here and whoever else is going to listen to this podcast a little update. Also, I should mention, I forgot to say in the beginning that you took a break out of your busy professor teaching schedule to give us 45 minutes of your time to do this interview. Now, Professor Mecate is what I should be addressing you with. So, yeah, give us an update on what you're doing nowadays and how fans can follow you in your competitive career off the mat now fighting.
Yeah, so I graduated ODU 2016 and started coaching there that year as one of the club coaches, and then was the volunteer assistant for 2 years after that. So I pretty much helped ODU wrestling in terms of coaching for 3 years. Yeah, helped out there. It was a great thing. I found a passion because I needed a little break from wrestling just because, it was pretty much from like first grade to senior year of college. So I took about a 6 month, maybe more 3 to 5 month hiatus from wrestling. Realized that I enjoy it still and I like it and I liked coaching. I just needed a break from eating. And then, I got into MMA. My first amateur fight about a year after I graduated college. So I had 6 amateur fights, won all 6 of them. And then I made my pro debut a month ago, and then won in the first round over there. It was on an indie casino, real grimy, real interesting crowd. Gotta start somewhere. So it was a great experience, but I've been training full time out here in California, and then I also am a professor at Mount San Antonio College in Pomona, California, and I coach the junior college guys there too. So I do that, and it doesn't take up too much of my schedule, and then it pays me pretty good just to kind of teach some classes and coach the guys. And then in the morning I train, and in the afternoon I train, and I have a pretty regimented schedule. So yeah, they take care of me, and then I'm still involved with the sport of wrestling, but I'm also professionally fighting now, and it's not just kind of some whim. It's not some thing I want to just try out just because I saw guys on TV doing it when I was out of college. Since I was a kid, I always wanted to do it, and I always said when I'm done wrestling, I'm going to get into fighting. And then, but like most things when you're a kid, you say, people just go, okay, yeah, sure, buddy. And then I got done, and then I followed through with it. So even people are kind of like, oh, he was serious. So I'm doing that right now, and then I'm getting great training out here, train with world champs in jiu-jitsu, super high-level strikers, good wrestlers around the area. But everything is, for the most part, within an hour drive when you're in SoCal. You're within an hour of a world champion in some sort of discipline of MMA. It's so big out here. It's huge. So, yeah, I'm closer to the promoters, closer to the promotions, closer to the UFC connections, and then Vegas is a 3-hour drive from where I live, which is the fight capital of the world. So it was a good move for me to come back out to California in terms of fighting. But I loved my time at ODU competing. I love my time coaching there as well. I learned a lot. Just as much as I learned wrestling for Steve, I could say I probably learned equally just as much in terms of coaching and from Steve as well. My 3 years there, I learned a lot. But this summer I came out to California, so I'm fighting now. So hopefully within a couple years you'll see me on the big stage with some of the other NCAA wrestling big dogs getting the UFC money, hopefully. So that's the goal, and I'm just doing everything in my power right now to do it.
What weight are you at, Chris? 45 or 55?
My first pro fight I had at 145. So I fought at 55 and at 45 amateur. I did both. And then professionally, though, I fought at 45, which is my professional weight.
Right.
When you look at the guys at the highest level in the sport at 145, they all walk around at like 170, 175, 180. So I'm not even a huge 145. I walk around that when I'm just training, but kind of not super strict on my diet. I walk around about 170. So I'm not even a huge 45. But
Kevin Lee's like 200 pounds at 155.
Yeah, guys are huge. Max Holloway says 180, 185 and makes 45. So to compete at the highest level, you're going to have to do that kind of thing. So I just want to make sure when I do it right, give it all my effort. And then when I'm done, I could look back, whether it works out or it doesn't work out, I can look back and say, I gave my all. So I'm not that old guy, that old guy at the bar talking about his coulda, woulda, shoulda days.
Chris, average Pennsylvania bar, you walk in, how many roughnecks could whip your ass in there, do you think? Training just says Pennsylvania Mountain Guys.
I don't know, and I'm not going to give too many details, but anytime I did go into a bar in Pennsylvania, there were a couple. I definitely got looks. I probably look a little different. I dress a little weird for them. But, yeah, there's always one or two guys with overalls giving me a mean mug. Let's just say that.
Their old lady's even tougher.
You would have fit in better with your Clarion night helmet on.
I should have. Yeah, Clarion night helmet. Redshirt freshman year, I still have it, Warner. I still have the Clarion night helmet. First place.
Rob, you got anything else for Chris before we let him go?
No, I'm good, man. Thanks for coming on again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me. Hopefully this file makes it all the way to the podcast. And yeah, awesome.
Tristan's responsible for it, so we're not sure.
That's right.
Yeah,
Chris,
come on,
you got
Warner.
any other last words you want to say? Any ODU wrestling fans or PA wrestling fans in general?
No, I mean, I appreciate all you guys' support. I had tons of battles with many Pennsylvania boys throughout my, especially throughout my college career. And it was always a good time. And I'm a fan now. I'm always watching good college wrestling. And so PA pumps out a lot of good ones. So I'm a fan of a lot of these guys you see out there from Pennsylvania. But at the end of the day, it's always the West Coast from me. But I'm a fan. Go, Pennsylvania wrestling. You guys are doing great.
Cool. We'll have to keep our eyes out. We'll keep our fans also updated on your fighting career. Obviously, I'm in touch with you pretty often. So hopefully we'll be seeing you up on the TV or maybe even out on the East Coast fighting sometime soon.
Right on. Absolutely.
Chris, do you have a scheduled fight or is everything just completely shut down?
No, I was talking to my manager before the whole thing happened, and we were looking to get one in end of April, early May. And then obviously, like, you can't even get more than 10 people together in a room or something like that. The laws are crazy in California. I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania, but out here it's
pretty much the same. Yeah, we're shut down right now.
pretty strict out here in California. Yeah. So I'm training hard. I'm actually probably training more. I'm getting great rounds in while I'm out here right now. And then so yeah, I'm still improving. I'm getting better just so I know when this whole thing when the lock comes off, I know people are going to be itching to fight, and I'll be one of them with my hand up, ready to go.
Yeah,
so
hopefully.
Do what I can.
All right. Well, best of luck, Chris. Thanks again for joining us on the program. And like I said, we'll keep fighting to save Old Dominion Wrestling.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Chris.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Later, guys.